This is the EVP Podcast.
Welcome to a new episode of the EVP Podcast, and happy 4th of July, everybody.
America.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my gosh.
What a great social media post we had recently.
Oh, was that good or what?
With Beaker doing the hashtag balance challenge. Make sure you go to evp.pod on Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, yo, I
Check it out.
balanced like a champion,
You
all right?
did. That's the point of it, right? The balance challenge. You gotta see if you
You
can.
were on your 1 foot like a champ.
Yep. I was impressed.
Yeah, I brought my milkshake before I challenged.
That's
to
right.
balance. I brought it all, bitches.
Well, welcome, everybody. It is another episode, and I am Ghosty.
I'm Beaker.
I'm DVO.
And here we are again with some shenanigans.
Some fun, spooky shenanigans.
Oh, yeah.
I
So,
swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next person that says shenanigans. Name that movie. Name that movie.
waiting.
Nope. Eat wrong.
Never heard of it.
Super Troopers. You guys lose.
I haven't seen Super
Oh,
Troopers.
shit.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't?
They're making Super Troopers 2.
They
aren't
already.
They've already,
it's been
that came
made.
out a couple years
yeah,
ago.
made.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Either one.
Well, let's start off this episode with some spooky tales. Do you have some
Spooky
spooky tales for us,
tales?
Beaker?
Yeah, Manny. He's sitting right there.
Don't call him over here. He's gonna tap dance and
I know.
shit. Don't do that.
He's like, my tale is spooky. So we've actually had a couple of people reach out to us on the emails. And,
Thank you.
And told us some of their stories. So I will leave out names and places as per request. When people request that, I do have another. So I got stories from two different people. One person, he's okay with me using their name. The other person, I will leave this anonymous. But this individual reached out to us shortly after listening to our episode on sleep paralysis and wanted to share their experience with sleep paralysis. They said it was about 13 years ago, and they'd woken up suddenly. They grabbed their phone to see what time it was, since the VCR in the room was only flashing like 12 o'clock. You know, the old school VCRs flashing 12 o'clock, light up your entire room so you can see everything. So I guess it was.
Same happened to Ghosty, right? Same thing. Flashing 12, wasn't it?
No, it was just the ambiance of the light.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
All
flashing.
right.
No.
I got it. But it was just bright. It was just bright.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I guess they checked their phone, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning.
The witching hour.
The witching hour. Actually, the witching hour is from like midnight to like 5 in the morning or something like that.
The prime
Long-
witching hour.
Long
Yeah.
time.
Pretty much the whole time it's dark.
Yeah, pretty much. So I guess they got up. They walked upstairs into the kitchen to get a glass of water, and then they walked back down the stairs to the basement where the room was. They put the glass of water onto the end table and climbed back into bed. Now, when they got back into bed, they turned onto their side and was suddenly pushed back down onto their back. So they're trying to sleep on their side. Something instantly pushed them back onto their back, and their arms were pinned down to their side.
Succubus.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Now, they said they couldn't move their arms or their legs, and they tried to scream, but it came out, I guess, like as a kind of a screeching sound, and which I guess the sound was like involuntary. So I guess they didn't try to start screaming. They just started making this high-pitched like screeching noise. They say it lasted about 2 minutes, but they're not entirely sure because in the moment at the time, and I know you kind of experienced it, it just seemed like it went on forever, right?
As long as I could hold my breath.
Yeah, it seemed for quite some time, but I guess it was only like 2 minutes. They said they tried to call out for help, but the only noise that would come out was their words, that god awful screech. They did manage to screech out, "Let me go," and when they were able to get that out, it all stopped. They've never experienced anything like that before or since. Now they've read about sleep paralysis, but they never felt that it was really connected. During that time of their life, it was very terrifying for them because at the time that they were just a teenager who thought devil worship was so cool. The paralysis was one of the tipping points to moving out of their parents' house and moving in with their aunt and uncle, and until they found their own place. They can't really say for sure that it was a demonic entity. They don't know, and they didn't really want to find out. They just kind of wanted to kind of forget it, I guess. Another story from the same person, actually, I guess they used to work nights. And one of the drives home, it was like when the sun was barely coming up. It was a Sunday morning, and there was pretty much nobody on the road. They're coming up the road, and off to the field over into their left, they saw this flash of light in the sky, and it said that it looked like it was a big sphere of energy falling from the sky. At the time, their brain had processed this. They thought it was like a meteorite, coming out of space, and they remember gripping the steering wheel and realizing they hadn't buckled up, so they weren't wearing their seatbelt, and they were thinking of their kids, and they kind of said to themselves like, they thought it was going to hit their car, and they just remember thinking to themselves like, I hope they find my body, because they thought this thing was going to crash into the car and kill them. And then all of a sudden there was just another flash and it was gone, and they still to this day have no idea what it was.
Weird.
Interesting. First story.
That's
What do you think about that first story?
the sleep paralysis.
Yeah. Because you don't have. I mean, the fact that being pinned down is a feeling of the sleep paralysis, right?
It
I don't know
is.
about it being like flipped over on your side,
Right.
from your side to
And
your
I
back,
think
though.
I think a lot of people have had similar experiences, but all different in their own.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if someone else has had this similar experience, I wouldn't say it's sleep paralysis though.
Yeah, that sounds a little different. I mean, maybe being felt pinned down, you couldn't scream. That kind of sounds like it, but the laying on your side and pushed over to your back, that sounds a little different.
Yeah, that's pretty rapey.
Yeah, pretty succubusy.
Yeah.
Something totally different.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Huh.
Well, succubuses and incubuses are something I don't ever want to deal with. Like we had a case before.
Depends what
where-
mood I'm in, I guess.
we've had a case in the past where the client thought that they were dealing with a succubus, and the funny thing is as we were taking the case on and kind of looking into it a little bit, I know that Brandy and then our other Brandy and Caden all started having weird stuff happening in their life. They like their abilities kind of felt like blocked, so to speak. And I know there were some like random text messages that were happening at this time. And when I finally got back to the client, which was a friend of mine, and we had decided that it was possible that her cousin, it was the one that was having the issues,
Okay.
might have been, because he has a history of drug use.
Okay.
So we determined it might just be he was started using drugs again. He was hallucinating. And the funny thing is when we decided to not be involved in that case, things got better for the Brandies and Caden. So in my opinion, I think it actually was a succubus that he was dealing with, but we weren't equipped to handle it, unfortunately.
That is interesting.
I haven't heard anything about it since, so I think it might have moved on.
Hopefully.
Because I still keep in contact with this person. It's my friend, but they haven't told me anything about it since.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what happened with that, but that's kind of what got me to believe
Did
that
this person
succubus
say
were
this
actually
was the
real.
only time this event has happened
Yeah,
to them?
first and only time.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I have no idea what that.
Yeah.
They did say they have a lot more stories, and I told them they're more than welcome to share the stories with us, and we'll share them on the
Definitely.
air if they want us to.
Yeah.
But for anyone that's listening, if you have stories that you want to share with us, feel free to email us at evp.pod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on the social medias, evp.pod on Instagram and Facebook.
Slide into our DMs.
Slide into our DMs. Yes, the mighty, mighty DMs. Tell us your stories and let us know if it's something you want just us to know about, or if you're okay with us sharing it on the podcast, and how confidential you want it. If you want me to do exactly what I just did, where I didn't mention any names or places or anything like that, or if you want us to mention your names, we can. It's up to you. But we love to hear your stories, and we love sharing the stories.
I actually have somebody, they found our EVP podcast channel on YouTube from my personal YouTube channel, and she commented on our, I think it was our Ybor City one. That was Tampa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually lived in Florida, or I can't remember if she said she lived there or she does live there. She's got some interesting stories from that area. So I actually gave her the email link. I'm like, hey, please email some of those stories. We'd love to share that. So she's been watching our YouTube channel. So Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
People watch the YouTubes.
Yes.
So what about that second story though?
So the second story
light?
is this from.
No, I'm talking about the second part of the
Oh,
first story.
the flash, the
light.
light thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a
UFO?
huge believer. Well, UFOs, I believe in UFOs
First
because
thing I thought
simply,
of.
simply a UFO is an unidentified flying object. So yes, I believe in UFOs. As far as like aliens go, I'm a little. The Nordics are the ones that I fully believe in, and those aren't ones that you usually see flying in spaceships. The Greys are the more popular ones that people talk about, and I'm still just kind of like, if the Greys are so intelligent, why are they, coming after us retarded hillbillies and probing our butts? According
I have
to
theories.
yeah,
Me
theories.
too. That's another episode, though.
Yeah, I have some.
So
theories.
it's possible it could have been some kind of like alien activity, but I don't know.
That is interesting.
I'm still iffy. Like the Nordics are the only aliens I kind of believe exist. That's just me.
I mean, there could be billions of aliens out there. Every star you look at is
Or the
a
lizard
sun,
people.
and every sun has planets going around it.
Yeah.
So we only have life on this planet because we're the perfect distance from the sun. There's all those other suns out there. There's got to be planets that are perfect distances from those suns as well.
How many suns do you have out there?
We'll never know. We'll never know.
And don't come knocking.
Yeah, don't ask.
So I don't know. I just kind of lean more towards it's possible it's some kind of alien activity.
All right. Yeah.
I don't know because
Aliens, man.
aliens.
Aliens.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Definitely was aliens.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I still struggle with the whole concept of aliens, except for the Nordics.
Another episode.
Another
Yeah,
episode.
another episode.
No, but I don't
We'll
want to get
pick
too much.
each other's brains. Of,
Yes.
So the other individual is actually someone that used to listen to the other podcast, and
That you were on.
that I was on, and they actually messaged me right about the time we got this one going, and they're like, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, like, I really miss you on the podcast. It's not the same without you." And I'm like, "Interesting that you say that. Here's the link to our new podcast. We only have like 3 episodes right now, but more will come." And this dude, like, every time we got a new show out, and he really enjoys it. He's always messaging me, hitting me up, sending me a text, letting me know how much he's enjoying the new show. I told him, I appreciate your support, and he says, anytime, like you guys made a lifelong fan, so
Nice.
really appreciate your love and support and listening to the show. But he actually, one of the times that he hit me up, I guess he moved into a new house and he was having some activity, and unfortunately, it's not something that I can easily get to because we don't live in the same state. But I
Okay.
did give him some advice on how to properly sage his home. He was using a Severn chakra sage that he had bought, and I gave him the walkthrough on how to, go through, start at the one part of your house, make sure you're going clockwise through all the rooms and through the house, and then ending at one of the doors, so you're pushing all the energy out the door. So I gave him instructions on how to properly sage his house, and he's asked for other advice on stuff throughout the last couple of years. And, I just give him my advice and tell him what I would do. I recently got him to buy a pendulum because he was wondering if he might have portals, and I explained to him kind of how you can find portals using a pendulum. And I told him how to properly keep himself grounded in that, using, like, when I use a pendulum, I usually have a piece of selenite and maybe a piece of tourmaline on me to keep myself grounded and keep myself clear, so I'm not dealing with... so if I do deal with like something more negative that's trying to use the pendulum, I'm kind of hopefully just trying to ward them off a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I showed him, and I referenced some YouTube videos to kind of show you what it would look like when you find the pendulum or find a portal. And he's told me we can share that on the show. He's appreciative for the help that I've given him. That little bit, I feel like obviously there's only so much I can do when you live across the country.
Sure.
But from what I understand, things have kind of cleared up and gotten better since I kind of walked through the steps of how we would cleanse a home.
Excellent.
Of course, I always have Peaches there. Whenever I get stumped, she gives me guidance on what I need to do and the blanks. She fills in the blanks for me.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the stories I had.
Did he have any other like anything specific that was
I think there was footsteps.
okay?
Doop doop doop.
So footsteps that shouldn't be heard.
Yes. Yeah, usually Oh, he said, I guess when he first cleansed, he said his plumbing went to crap. The water heater overflowed. The shower and the tub started leaking. And the toilets both had issues. And this is after they had an inspection, and everything was working fine. So I told him I use blue sage with lavender to cleanse the home. You can do it with white sage. I said water issues like that could be a sign of an elemental, but I kind of wasn't feeling that that's what it was. I think it was just something else.
Okay.
But yeah, he said he went through and did that, and he straight up said, share my experience. Let me know, let people know that how you helped me. And like I said, this is all through text messages.
Nice.
So, I think he saged with the 7 chakra sage, and then he filled a spray bottle with salt water and sprayed around the house from the basement all the way up to the and finished in the front door, like we tell people.
Yep.
Because you always want to end at the front
Going
door or
out.
back door, so you're pushing that energy out of the house. And I believe that kind of took care of it, and he finished up with saying that he enjoys the new podcast over the old one. I've had several people tell me that they've left the other show, stopped listening to it, and followed me to this one, and they like the energy that the three of us have together.
Welcome.
I think the three of us are a perfect match for each other. We've got the smart guy, the guy that just is here, and then you got the comic relief over here in Ghosty.
The Three Amigos.
Yes,
The
pretty
Wolf
much.
Pack.
Neapolitan.
The wolf. I was a wolf pack of 1, and then I met you guys, and then we were a wolf pack of 3.
Yes.
But don't worry, I won't roofie you.
It's not like you haven't before.
You asked me to. I won't do it at Marshmallows either. That was what, Hangover 2?
Yes.
Yeah, Hangover movies. But yes, I was glad that I was actually able to help him out, even though it was through text messages. But it seems like things have kind of cleared up, and he's going from there. Like I said.
All right.
Excellent.
Excellent. So now let's transition then. And so we talked about, I think on the last episode that there was a new movie that came out, and we want to talk about that. So if you guys haven't heard, there's a new Conjuring movie that came out on HBO Max and then the movie theaters.
I saw it in the theater.
Did you see it already?
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
So we saw it in the theater. About 10 minutes into it, it's all nice and quiet because there's like Peaches and myself were in the theater. There was like 2 other, not that her and I are a couple, but there was other couples in there, and then all of a sudden like this group of obnoxious ass teenagers come strolling in 10 minutes into the movie, like, so they missed like the opening part.
Okay.
Of what's going on, and obviously we'll talk about this in a later episode, but they as soon as they opened the door, before they even walked up the aisle way to get their chairs, just talk, sat down, and they're just talking, and I don't know, I'm sure she could feel my anger rising, because I was about to just go off on these kids, and before I was just trying to like get my composure, because I would have been
Goosefraba.
not as nice as she was. But she leaned forward and she's like, "Hey, shut the hell up there." And the best part was so she yelled that, they all shut up, and then she sat back. And then I kind of leaned forward just a little bit. One of the kids turned around, saw me, and then just turned right back around, and they didn't say a damn word the rest of the movie.
Good.
Perfect.
So I just think it's funny because the kid was obviously looking to see who told him to shut up. And when he sees me sitting there, a big 300-pound, 6'5" guy with a big ass beard, he didn't want to start shit. So they watched the movie.
Nice.
You will smother him to death.
Pretty much.
I watched it. Our baby fell asleep, so that we thought it was a good time for me, my wife, and my oldest daughter to watch it on HBO Max, and we liked it. It was good. So,
this is gonna be so much fun when we talk about that.
yeah. So we want to talk about it. So we're gonna wait a few weeks. So we decided we'll talk about maybe the first 2 Conjuring movies the next couple weeks, and then get into the third one. Give you guys some time to watch it, and then.
Then we'll spoil it.
We don't want to spoil it.
We're giving you like a month here warning that we're going to spoil the shit out of this movie. So,
Spoiler alert to a spoiler alert.
But not only are we going to talk about the movie, but then how it like relates to like the real, because obviously there's the real story that happened. Then they kind of gotta Hollywood it up a little bit, to make millions off of it, and that's okay.
Millions.
I'm okay with that.
this franchise has made a couple $1 billion.
I'm talking about the movie itself.
The movie itself
Yes.
is millions, yeah.
So, but we wanted this episode to pay homage to maybe can say the grandparents of ghost hunting and ghost investigating, but Ed and Lorraine Warren.
You can pay all the homage you want to them.
Yes, I think they are great.
I used to.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I'll show you my research.
All right,
You won't think the same.
interesting. So,
Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
okay,
I used to idolize these people, and then as the years have gone by, I don't so much
okay.
anymore.
I'll be interested to hear.
I do think that the paranormal field probably would not be the way it is today without them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
there's a lot of things they did that I don't agree with.
All right. So let's talk about the early years. So Ed Warren was born in December of 1926 in Connecticut. Growing up, Ed's closet, he would see it kind of open up in the middle of the night, and he would go, or he just kind of, he didn't really know what to think growing up. He was young. I think he lived in this house from age 5 to 12.
So you're
something
saying
like
he
that.
grew up in a haunted house?
He grew up in a haunted house.
Did he?
And he looked in one time and saw like an older lady in his closet.
Was she wearing a black dress?
I don't know.
Black wedding dress?
Maybe.
That's insidious. by the way.
Okay. And he would tell his dad about it. and
Well,
his-
see, here's the correlation
Okay.
of that. Patrick Warburton played the dad in Insidious, and they
Okay.
had the spirit that was in the black wedding dress and were
Uh-huh.
chasing him. He was also the guy that played Ed Warren. That's the correlation.
Oh, yes,
saying.
yes. Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. Yes, I said the wrong name. Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, I was like, who? Wait.
He's a very attractive man.
yeah. He's a good-looking
Not
guy. Yeah.
not Ed Warren.
That
the
came out
actor.
of nowhere. Nobody asked.
Nobody asked.
Well, so it's very
Nobody.
they're-
Silence.
they're-
Beaker. He was so handsome. So good looking.
I want to touch his butt.
I want to put my foot up. I hope he likes my
I will
poses.
fight you.
So Ed Warren would tell his dad about this, haunting in the house, and his dad would say, "Well, there's a perfectly good explanation for it," and then would never provide an explanation for it. Lorraine Warren was born in January of 1927, also in Connecticut, and as early as 7 years old, she would see lights around people. She would later find out those were people's auras that she was seeing.
I know someone else that's been able to do that since they were alive.
So
Peaches.
Lorraine, she went to a Catholic school, and that's when she found out in Catholic school that not everyone is seeing these lights around everyone else. Well, the two of them met at a movie theater. Ed was working at a movie theater. He was a usher back in the days. People would usher in the guests into the movie theater. They stayed in contact while Ed joined the Navy. I think he joined on his 17th birthday, actually. But the Navy ship he was on caught on fire, and so the whole ship was abandoned. People lost their lives. And something relevant that happened to Ed was that he was helping one of the other people that had jumped out of the ship. And they were surrounded by a wall of fire, is what he said. And he prayed for basically help. And then he said it kind of seemed like the fire kind of opened a pathway, and they were able to kind of swim out. And so he just kind of felt like there was a higher being helping him. And he has been a devout Catholic his whole life. So that was just something that he strongly believed in.
Are they like Roman Catholics?
Yes, yeah. So because of that, he was on what they called survivor leave because of the boat sank and a lot of people died. So he was on survivor leave. And during that leave, him and Lorraine got married in 1945, and they had a baby born in 1946. Continuing on with their story. So Ed wanted to help other people that he thought also might have had hauntings growing up like he did, where he lived in a haunted house. So what he would do, him and Lorraine, they would drive to well-known haunted houses, and he would sketch them. And he actually sold some of his sketches. He sketched a lot of different things, but his most popular sales was coming from the haunted houses that he would sketch. And so he had a little thing that he would do. He would sketch the house, have Lorraine go up to the house and offer them the sketch that he made, in hopes that they would invite them in and they can try to investigate. And that is kind of how they started doing their investigations.
I don't know, but if you ask me, that sounds a little sketchy.
That's kind of, that's kind of smart. At least you're offering something and not just going, let me get in your house and investigate it.
Here's a picture of your house. By the way, it's haunted.
I love the. Well, these were well known. They already had
hauntings.
Yeah, had hauntings that were kind of
Seems
public
a little
information.
fishy to me.
And then in 1952, they started the New England Society for Psychic Research. That was their paranormal group. They started. They also taught other people because they started getting a lot more popular and well known, and a lot of people wanted them to investigate. They couldn't do it all, so they were teaching other individuals how to do this type of investigation. So they did that there. They were really into the idea of not profiting from research. Kind of like us. We want to investigate and help people. Not really. We don't charge as well. We're not trying to make a money off of this. So they're. I'm not. So they made money by doing lectures. They get paid to go and speak at lectures, and also books that they wrote. So they wrote 6 books,
And their television and movie rights.
and then they went into a lot of different. Yeah, obviously they sold their.
They
their
sold the
rights to their
stories of the
theaters.
people they helped.
Yes, and they've done thousands and thousands of investigations.
4,000.
Four.
They have done over 4,000 investigations, and they sold your stories to make money.
So I kind of see Beaker's agenda here. Okay, see where that's going. All right, so let's talk about these investigations.
Well, they even said in the Amityville case, because I did an episode on this on my last podcast.
Okay.
There was something that happened, and Lorraine Warren literally said, "Our lives now belong to Warner Brothers."
Okay.
So
So does she regret doing it then? Is that what you're
I
saying?
don't think so.
All right.
I mean, obviously they have to make money somehow, right? And doing the lectures, yeah, I'm sure they made money on that, but I'm sure that's not where the money they came from, because they were consultants on some of the movies that were made, and I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But my opinion is that I think they took advantage of some of these situations to monetize them,
Okay.
and we can talk about that later.
All right. Well, I was going to talk about here some of the other high profile, besides the Conjuring movies, some other high profile cases they had done, some other super haunted places. One is the Borley Church haunting, and that is in England. Have you guys heard of that?
I have
I
not.
don't think so.
So
Peaches has. She's over there shaking her head. Yes, we have a
So,
special guest with us. She's just not being vocal.
there's claims to have been hauntings here all the way back to the 14th century.
Okay, this church. Okay.
Of this church, yep. This is also where there's been stories of a nun who had an affair with a monk,
Ooh,
and
scandalous.
the nun was executed. Also, where the origins of the Nun movie kind of came from. I think that whole movie was completely fictional, and I think
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so but I think the
Yeah, it was a spinoff.
premise of the nun came from just ideas from this haunting.
Okay.
Let's see. I think there was some things that happened there. Oh, some of the things that go on there. There's claims of chanting or organ music being played, or the monk being seen roaming the halls. Another haunting, high profile, is called the West Point haunting, back in the 70s. Heard of that? Anybody?
No.
No.
Okay, this was a military academy in West Point, New York.
Okay.
I think I might have.
Lorraine said she felt the presence of an Irish cook named Molly, who would knock over wine bottles and make mess of freshly made beds. What a bitch, right?
I think that might have been the one too where, because I read that there's a book that was written in 1980 called The Demonologist that talks about their cases and stuff like that. And obviously there's stuff that happened after the book was written, but I remember there was a military academy where a guy's wallet would keep disappearing.
Yeah, they talk about there's a lot of things would just go moving or missing, and they would come up with a name of a spirit named Greer.
Yeah,
And then they come to find out there was a Buffalo soldier whose last name was Greer.
I remember that part. I didn't know that's where it was at.
So,
So yeah,
that's the one.
I've
That's
heard
the
of
one.
that. Yes.
And then another famous one that wasn't in the Conjuring movies, but it's the Amityville Horror.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We're all familiar with that.
So they did actually consult on the 1979 movie and the 2005 movie. Both Ed and Lorraine consulted and gave their input on those movies and helped those get produced.
Oh, nice. But yeah, we know all about that. We'll probably talk about that in another episode. And And then there's this other one called the White Lady of Easton. It's a ghost that people have claimed to have seen for decades. The Easton police, I don't know where Easton is. But Ed ended up seeing a ghost. Ed ended up seeing something there. He said he saw several ghost lights that came together to form a woman with no facial features, but she had dark hair and a white dress. And then, let's see, he said he made the mistake of walking towards it, and as soon as he did, it ended up disappearing. There's also a cemetery that's claimed to be haunted right next to it. But apparently that was supposed to be one of the scariest moments for Ed. And then there's another one called the South End Werewolf, where they had something where this guy was almost like possessed.
Interesting.
Not necessarily saying he was a werewolf, but when they did a exorcism on him, they said that it looked like he almost changed. People witnessed it, saying that his features changed into what looked like a werewolf for a little bit, and then. But what his whole thing was, he was attacking people.
Interesting.
But he was a normal person, and all of a sudden just would snap and go berserk.
Interesting.
And then they were going to admit him to a mental hospital. Well, they did. And then Ed performed an exorcism on him, and he was freed of whatever was happening to him.
Yeah, I think Ed was the only demonologist that wasn't in clergy, I believe.
At the
Yeah,
time,
he was the
at the
only person that
The first
the church
in-
recognizes as a demonologist.
And then there's another one called the Donovan family from the 70s. Where was this at? This one, they would have loud noises coming from inside their walls.
Ooh,
Um,
that sounds good.
the wallpaper would peel. The water in the sink would look like blood. There were like crazy animal noises coming from odd ends of the house. And then one of the daughters confessed that she was using a Ouija board and claiming to be talking to a little boy. But then the Warrens, after doing some research, found out it was to be a demonic entity from what they said. And they also brought in a priest to that one. Another famous one, there's been other movies and documentaries on this one, The Haunting in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
That famous one where that
I know they worked on that one, as well as their nephew John Zaffis also was a part of that one as well.
John Zaffis was a part of a lot of investigations, but yeah, that's where he got his start. He was Ed's nephew. And then there's another one called Satan's Harvest. This one, I guess there was a book written about this one. This was about a possession of Maurice Thorold. They did show this in the beginning of the Conjuring movies, where they were kind of doing their slideshow thing, and they were showing that possession.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was this case.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They kind of showed a couple different parts of this throughout their movies, but this was the case of this guy being possessed.
I actually liked, real quick, on this Conjuring 3 movie, there's flowers that arrived. They go, oh, look, it's from the Perrin family. I kind of like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Kind of like
that's-
that little nod
that's
to
kinda
the.
funny.
Like, that's nice.
I saw that and I almost wanted to text Andrea and be like, "Is this true?
Did you guys send flowers?
Did you send flowers?"
Is this Hollywood? Then there's this other one called the Lindley Street Haunting. This was also in the 70s. This was Gerald and Laura Goodwin adopted a girl named Marcia. And this is the one where this is where they saw furniture moving and the crucifix shooting off the wall.
Oh, okay.
So this is the one with that little girl. And so this is an adopted little girl, and I guess there's a lot of poltergeist activity. So that would be pretty cool to talk about more into depth with some of these stories.
There's a few of these I kind of want to do episodes on.
Yeah.
So you guys should really read that book that I linked to. It's called, like I said, it's called The Demonologist by Gerard
Okay.
or Gerald
Oh,
Butler.
when you put in our group message?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it talks about a lot of these cases. It goes into great detail about the Annabelle case and Annabelle case as well.
Okay.
There's some cases in there. There's one where they saw a door literally like disappear in front of them, and then I guess it just reappeared in the basement.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Rocks raining. Oh, my phone went off.
This-
Rocks raining on the house and all that stuff like that.
Is that this one, the Smurl haunting?
I don't know.
Because this one, the Smurl haunting, this is the last one I was going to talk about. This is the one where they had a demon inhabiting their home for about a decade and was getting violent. It threw the dog against the wall. The beds would be shaking. They'd have loud noises at night. This one had an succubus, incubus,
Yes, it did.
touchy-feely stuff going on.
I know of this story. Yeah.
But pretty crazy stuff on this one, too.
Yeah.
Pretty
It might have
crazy.
been the case that I'm referring to, and I'll have to look it up. The daughter started out playing with a Ouija board, and she was talking to a spirit of a teenage boy that was
Oh,
lonely.
that's the one that I talked about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That's the one where the spirit, the entity convinced her it was like a teenage boy, and they became like friends, so to speak. And that's when they had issues like with rocks raining on their house. Nowhere else in the neighborhood, just rocks raining on their house. And then I think that was the same case where like they were upstairs and one of the bedroom doors like vanished and then reappeared in the basement.
Okay, yeah, a lot of cool stuff in these stories that we can get more into.
Whoa.
So
of
yeah,
these
if
are
you
new to
if
me.
you haven't read The Demonologist, it's a very interesting read.
Okay. See?
That was actually the book that Vera Farmiga actually read in preparation for her role as Lorraine Warren.
And she's very beautiful. Vera Farmiga.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
She
And
could
Patrick
get it.
Wilson. I'm gonna say
Also
their names.
very beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Such a
They make a
beautiful
beautiful
man.
couple. They
I wish they'd get married in real life.
they found beautiful people to play the Warrens because in real life Ed's a monster. Not really. I'm just kidding. But I saw one article. It's like The Conjuring's really a love story between Ed and Lorraine. And they do pitch that. Rewatch the movies.
Okay.
They do focus a lot on the kind of the love story between
We're
Ed
just
and Lorraine.
making sure that their love stays
How their
tight.
love is strong,
Their
and
love
that's how
is
they
tight.
overcome the evils of the world.
I did hear some interviews where a lot of people said how, like, what a great couple they were. They always did things together.
And I'm going to shatter all that here in a minute.
All right.
Do you have any more?
No, that was the last one. Remember
Okay,
I said that's
so
the last one.
I remember.
19. I don't listen. That was the last one. So they did investigations from till 1992, since the 40s, whatever. They obviously they created the you said they created the team in 1953 or
52. Yeah.
52.
But yeah, they were doing investigations before that.
But they did investigations up until 1992. I believe is when they did their final investigation. I couldn't find out which was the actual last investigation, but that's about when they stopped.
Was it because of Ed's stroke? Was that why?
It might have been,
Okay.
but I
I
know
heard something like that's why they stopped.
I know that they stopped doing the investigations, and it's very possible that would make sense why they stopped investigating is because of the stroke. But they always saw themselves like they both went and took art classes. They were both considered themselves artists, and they felt they were more educators than they were paranormal investigators. So they spent the rest of their time
Right.
going around doing the different lectures and teaching people about the paranormal. This is what they did after they stopped investigating. And they would go around different colleges and stuff, giving the lectures. They would be on the radio and do TV interviews and stuff like that and teach people about what it is they do. And unfortunately, Ed passed away August 23rd of 2006. And then after that, they also had their occult store or their occult museum. They're at their house.
Right.
So this is where they had Annabelle, and like if you watch the Conjuring movies when they're like Ed's clearing out spaces on the shelves and putting, I mean it's even in like the Annabelle Homecoming movie and all that. They have this in their house.
Right.
I like how John Zaffis does it because he's got a barn on his property, but it's not attached to his house.
It's a good idea.
But they ran their occult museum together, and they did all this stuff together until, like I said, he passed away. Lorraine kept doing all of this without him afterwards, and she had, still did interviews and stuff. She had some TV spots. I know she did a couple cameos on a show that I used to watch called Paranormal State.
Loved that show. And that's the first time saw her was on that.
Same here. And I used to watch Paranormal State. I'm like, these guys are cool. They're awesome. And I started doing some digging and some research because I have this bad habit of watching TV shows and movies and having imbd.com open right there next to me as I'm doing it. And there was one episode that wasn't on Paranormal State. I noticed it skipped an episode
Okay.
in one of the seasons. It literally went from like 6 to like 8 or something like that. I
All
can't
right.
remember. So I started looking into it and found out why. There was actually a lawsuit that was brought up against these people in Paranormal State. So if you don't know what Paranormal State was, this is some dude that that went to Penn State.
Uh-huh.
And had paranormal stuff happen throughout his entire life, and he decided to start a paranormal show.
And
with
he will
some of
never tell anybody what it was that happened to
No.
him. And the one time he did, he cried like a baby.
someone touched his butt.
No, he just started crying. You guys
Did
don't
he
even
really?
want to hear about this. Yeah, you didn't see that episode?
Yeah, I saw
No, so the episode, I found it on YouTube.
it. Okay.
And the lady had actually complained that, and this is why I have a problem with some of these paranormal shows. The lady complained that the story that they sent to Paranormal State that they asked for help with, they didn't feel like it was dark enough for the show, so they created a ghost to talk about on the show, according to the homeowner.
Okay.
I don't know if this is factual or not. I've seen the episode. There's a part where they go rushing into the bedroom and they see a cold spot on the bed with their thermal camera. The lady claims that they had found a 6-pack of Bud Light in the fridge and put it on the bed, and that's what they saw with the thermal camera. That's why there was a cold spot. They said they acted like a bunch of college, like, frat boys or sorority girls just there to party and have fun. That's what really turned me off of that show. But that's where I first found about Chip Coffey and Lorraine Warren, and
First time I saw Chip Coffey.
I
too.
have met Chip Coffey in person, and he is good at what he does, and I'll leave it at that. I've actually seen him on other TV shows and stuff like that. He's a very nice man, and he's
full of sass.
he is very sassy.
He's full of sass.
He's very
that guy.
sassy, but he's also good at what he does.
Uh-huh.
I bought his book.
I saw.
I had him sign it.
I sat down at his gallery reading at a expo that we had here.
Yep.
That's where we met Andrea Perrin as well.
Uh-huh.
And just some of the stuff that I saw that he did at the gallery reading. He's pretty legit.
Yeah. It was good.
But yeah, that's where I first saw Lorraine Warren's Paranormal State, and she's done other stuff as well. Like I said, she consulted on both Amityville movies with Ed before he passed away. She also consulted on the first 2 Conjuring movies, and she had a small cameo in the first one. I believe it was while they were
The first
In the
college
lecture,
giving the lecture. I think it was the first lecture at the beginning of the movie. She's in the audience as well. Unfortunately, she did recently pass away. April.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Like April 18th, 2019, I think, something like that. I don't know the exact date. It was April of 2019. But yeah, that's how they spent the rest of their days, just lecturing and teaching people about the paranormal and about what they did. I know the Amityville case is the one case that she refused to talk about. Apparently, that's how haunted and terrible that place was. And yeah, that's what they did. I know in 2013, after the first movie came out, apparently they had like a live-in house watcher, I guess.
Okay.
Her name was Judith Penny, and she met the Warrens when she was 15 and moved in with the Warrens. And I guess she would kind of like help their daughter while the Warrens were out traveling and stuff like that, and she'd help watch the house and kind of keep over the occult stuff and that. And she lived with him for like, She's a nanny. She's a live-in nanny. And she lived there for about 40 years, like four decades is what it says. Now, when the movie came out, and I'm not going to give a whole lot of credence to this lady's story, because I find it very convenient that none of this information came out until after the movie was released, after the first Conjuring movie.
Okay.
But this lady claims that she had an open affair with Ed Warren the entire time that she was living with them, and Lorraine knew about it. She said that Ed was very abusive towards Lorraine and used to beat her. And again, I'm not giving any credence to the story at all, because like I said, I find it very, very convenient that it's like, oh, they're making money. Here's this story. Like, you see that all the time.
Right.
Someone suddenly becomes like even popular. They get back into the limelight, and someone pops up and they're like, well, this happened to me.
Yeah,
And I don't buy it for a second. But this lady claims
Even though I
that,
maintained it for 40 years.
yeah. This lady claims that she had an affair. But basically was saying that like Ed and Lorraine had an open marriage, and that she was basically Ed's live-in girlfriend. And she claims that he used to tell her that she was the love of his life, and he never loved anybody as much as her. And that she was like, I guess she was trying to get this out there. She wanted it in the movies or whatnot. And the movies were going in a different direction, like I said earlier, talking about how their love
She just
makes
wanted
the-
to be in the movies.
Pretty much. I think so. Like I said, I think this is all bunk. I don't think any of this actually. She did live with them, and she basically was a live-in nanny and helped take care of their daughter and helped take care of the house. And at the time that this is coming out, I believe the daughter, I can't remember her name, Judy, basically said that like she never saw any of this, like none of this happened.
Okay.
And most of the time, Penny, the lady's last name's Penny, had a boyfriend, like a live-in boyfriend as well. It wasn't Ed, like so.
Okay, interesting.
I just think it's funny that all of a sudden it's just like, oh hey, this happened, which like I said, I don't believe a single bit of it. But like you said, they did make their money off of the lectures and like that and the likes, but they did also make a lot of money. And you hear about the Amityville case, how the Lutz, like people claim that they fabricated that story just so they could sell their books and that and make money that way. And I'm not saying that the Warrens intentionally did that, like to start with, but it kind of feels like towards the late 70s, early 80s, there's so many TV movies and books and stuff written on what they did. It almost to me feels like that they were taking advantage of certain individuals and like taking their stories and selling their stories to make a profit.
Did they not ask for permission?
I don't know. I think with the Amityville they did, because the Lutz were very heavily involved. Like George Lutz was heavily involved with the making of the Amityville movie as well. But from some of the research I've done and from people that I've even talked to that the Warrens went to, the interview that I did with her, she basically said, obviously it didn't happen the way it happened in the movie.
Right.
Her mom, Andrea's mom, didn't go to some lecture hall and meet Ed and like, we're having problems. They actually contacted a different paranormal group. And then next thing you know, like Ed's calling the house.
Right.
But I've heard that happen a lot. And I don't know because I wasn't there. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Because like I said, there's a lot that we've learned in the paranormal community that we wouldn't know if it wasn't for them.
Sure, yeah.
They paved the way for everybody else today.
Yep.
They were, the leaders of the industry. But you just hear a lot about how they just showed up uninvited. People didn't want them there. They didn't really do anything. They didn't fix anything. Sometimes they made things worse. But you're going to hear about that about anybody.
Yeah.
So how much of it is true on what they actually did and didn't do, I don't know. Because I wasn't there. But I'm just kind of showing you both sides of...
So why do you hate them so much?
I personally, I kind of do feel that they did take advantage of some of the people that they helped.
Did you get taken advantage of?
Yes, by you.
What if you found out that they got permission from those people?
Well, then they got permission from the people, but I don't think that they got permission from everybody. I mean, as far as like coming to their house, it's like, oh, I hear something. It's like the Enfield case, Conjuring 2, basically.
Okay.
It's like, from what I understand, they weren't even invited. They just showed up. They heard about it on the news and they showed up.
Right.
And they were there for like a day and then left. They weren't as involved, according to research I've done. So, like I said, I don't know the actual stories, but just from some of the research I've done, it just felt like they took advantage. Like, here's a high-profile case. We're going to show up and say we're involved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't hate the hustle though.
Whether or not that's what they actually did, I don't know, and I probably never will know.
But I don't hate the hustle though. Like if they're like we're trying to put ourselves out there because if their intention is I do want to help this family, I think we have the tools with Lorraine being a clairvoyant, a psychic medium as they
were
say.
the only ones really at the time that I'm sure there was other teams, but
Probably. Well, Morris Grossman was just there investigating the Enfield case before the Warren showed up. But it almost to me feels like it's like, hey, we're here. We're going to help you. By the way, we're writing a book on this.
Yeah. I don't hate it though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not mad at them for that.
You can,
Opportunistic.
I have to be that person that says, consequently, all of the demons or entities that they dealt with were Christian based, even though it was international. Really, not every entity is Christian based. Only here in America is everything Christian based.
Yeah.
So for those of you that couldn't hear what Peaches just said, she said it was basically very coincidental that every single entity that they dealt with was a Christian-based entity, and there's so many religions across the world. that there's, I mean, I've heard it from my friend Jimmy. Like, you could be talking to an old demonic entity from Babylon, and you invoke the name of Christ, and the entity's gonna be like, who?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I think, I'm not a fan of religion at all.
Doubt.
So I'm not a fan of like the word demon, and
Well, I use inhuman.
Angels
I use
and-
inhuman entity or inhuman spirit.
right, exactly. But I mean, just reading things off, the way things are worded in text and the way things are worded in movies and TV shows, everything is demonic and demon, and evil, demon, and angels.
Well, and that's pretty much what the Warrens did.
Yes, and it's
Because how
funny
many of those
because-
cases did you just talk about where they said they had a demonic entity?
Exactly.
What are the
It's
chances
how it
that
is here. It's
4,000
just funny.
cases, every single one's a demon?
Exactly. It's
I'm
so
sorry.
annoying.
Like I said, I got to give mad props to the Warrens. They were good at what they did, and they paved the way for
they were
the
stuck in
rest of
their
us. We
religion.
probably wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for what they did. So I got to give them props. But at the same time, like you said, they were very opportunistic,
Yeah.
and I think they played people. That's just my opinion. I'm sure I'm going to get hate for this, but that's what I believe.
Well, I feel like if people didn't want them, they could have kicked him out of the house, just like Andrea Perron's dad punched him in the face.
Yeah, they did. They
They've
kicked
been
him out.
punched in the face a few times, I'm sure.
So it's not like they had to keep them there.
I almost want to go through and like pick apart that interview and cut out a certain individual and just play what Andrea said. I would love to get her back on and interview her sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to have her on. I mean, we might even play maybe some recordings of that we interviewed with Andrea. So again, we mentioned her. Andrea Perron is one of the kids, the oldest kid of the Perron family that was the first Conjuring movie was based on.
And this, I've heard stuff about Andrea. Someone told me that they met her in person. They just felt all this negative, evil energy coming off of her. And the four of us in this room have met her, and we all disagree.
Yeah.
This lady felt like that long-lost grandma that hadn't seen you in years, and when she hugged you, she embraced you and would not let go. That hug lasted forever, and you could feel how much love and joy was coming off of this person. She truly loves everyone she comes in contact with.
That's a good reason to remember. Don't believe everything you hear from people.
Like, this is one of the most amazing. They dealt with that shit for 10 years, and to feel that much love and energy coming off of her, yeah, it's amazing.
I know you love her,
You love everybody.
I do.
especially Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson,
Yeah.
touch his butt.
Give Beaker a call. I know you listen to the podcast. So.
Yeah, you're one of the 45 people that listen to us. So his little bird's gonna whisper in his ear. They're talking about you on this random podcast in Utah.
He's like, oh yeah, the EVP podcast. I'm very well aware of it.
I know those
I
guys.
follow them.
I know it well, of course.
Yeah, I'm having lunch with them next week. That's my 2 cents on the Warrens.
Okay.
That's just what I think. So, like I said, I might get some hate. I might not. I don't care. That's just my opinion.
No, it's okay. You can have an opinion.
That's what we do on this show. We have our opinions. We tell what we think.
We have different opinions, and that's okay.
Yes.
I just think they're opportunistic, and I'm not mad at them for
They
that.
definitely were. They took advantage of people.
I ain't mad at them.
No,
Hey, if they help
I don't
people-
think they did.
If at the end of the day, if they actually helped people feel safe in their own homes or get that closure that they needed, that's what matters.
Well, if they did 4,000 cases themselves, and we're only talking about like a dozen of them,
Yeah, this
pretty
is true.
sure. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of open and shut. Just hey, this got out of there and it's gone now, or
Just like
whatever.
ours, a lot of ours, we go there, nothing's really here now. Maybe it was, and now it's gone. Or this is nothing really big, and now it's kind of gone. And like you said, open and shut, probably a lot of those.
Yeah,
Probably the majority, actually.
yeah. And those ones ain't gonna make books.
Nope.
Nope.
Or Warner Brother movies.
Exactly. But you know what will? Amityville.
Yeah.
Well, let's call that an episode.
All right.
So
So
let's-
stay tuned for the next episodes. We're going to be talking about the Conjuring movies, the movie themselves, and how they relate also to the real story that happened.
All right, let's go make our own fireworks, guys.
Ooh. I guess we're going to your room next then.
Yeah, Ghosty out.
Peace out, butterflies.
Sayonara.
Oh yeah.
Oh, God.
This is the EVP Podcast.